Time, and we don't want to hear growling stomachs in the middle of the presentation. So I'm excited to be moderating this panel. My name is Sarah Lee Whitson. I'm the Executive Director of DAWN. The topic of our panel today is Lessons Learned, Arab Spring Uprisings and Failed Transitions. I should say hard lessons learned, and I don't know how much we've learned, but I guess we'll find out. In the interests of time, I am not going to introduce the speakers with their full bios, but refer you to the excellent program that has that information to maximize the time available for our speakers given our late start. But I am going to say a little bit more about Dr. Rahim, since I think she's less well known in this circle and has come a very long way. So our first speaker is Dr. AbdulMawgoud Dardery, my dear friend for many years, but more importantly, the former spokesperson of the FRC of Egypt's Freedom and Justice Party, a longtime activist for human rights and democracy in Egypt, unwavering in his commitment, and very eager to hear his remarks. We are going to try to keep each of these remarks to 10 minutes, but the speakers' presentations are a bit longer, so excuse us if there's any little kerfuffles at the end.
Thank you, Sarah. Just 1 minute. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here with you, and I'm really thankful to CSID for choosing not only the conference, but the title of the conference, the denial of democracy. Denying democracy to a free people that demand bread, freedom, and rule of law is dehumanizing. Today, we all stand witness to how dehumanizing a people allows the world witness genocide and stand watch. It's all connected. As I begin to discuss lessons, hard lessons learned from the denial of democracy, I want to honor my colleagues who believed in the idea of democracy and were elected in the free and fair elections, one of the most fair elections in the history of Egypt. And I will be playing the video of more than 100 members of parliament in Egypt who have been in jail for the past 10 years. And they're still in jail. Some of them died due to medical negligence. Others died because of the torture. Others died for different reasons, but the majority of them, over 92 members of parliament, are still in jail until today. Would you please play the video? The video will be coming. You don't need to look at me. Please look at those and look at their eyes and listen to their demands for justice, because their only crime was they believed in democracy. And they believed that democracy will be able to solve the challenges that Egypt was facing at that time and still face us today. There are more than 60,000 political prisoners. This is just one segment of the political prisoners who are in jail in Egypt today. Among those 60,000, 92 members of parliament are still alive. About 21 died either in jail or right after they came out of jail. 4 of members of parliament died in exile. And you cannot imagine when people die in exile away from their family, it leaves a terrible impact on the families as well as in the people themselves. So whether or not you agree with their politics or with their person, what I do know is that these individuals represented the exercise of democratic process played out, and with democracy denied, their imprisonment is a microcosm of the human toll it took on all Egyptians. As I speak, photos of the elected members of parliament, my colleagues, will be displayed in efforts to remind us all that they are not merely numbers. It's also not lost on me that many of the photos are of poor quality, but that too is a representative of the suffocation of space and communication and the inability to attain safely something as simple as a high-quality photos. Please keep running the video as long as I'm speaking. The Arab uprisings were the most necessary response to the post-colonial failure of the Arab states, local, regional, and international, to seize that historical moment was the worst democratic loss in the Arab world. Based on lessons learned from the failure to promote democracy, I argue that unless indigenous democratic transitions take place, new colonial powers will continue to rule in Egypt as well as in other parts in the Arab world, and violations of human rights, of human, political, economic, and legal rights will continue to thrive. The violent halt to democracy was executed by the post-colonial military junta and supported by the illiberal liberals, regional authoritarian regimes, and the complicity of the international community, including officials and institutions from Europe and the United States of America. Since the military coup, it is reported that more than 897 political prisoners have died in prison due to torture and medical negligence. Many of the youth in Egypt today are either in jail or in exile. Demoralization is at a high time, is at an all-high time, causing many to flee the country or restore to substance abuse or extremist ideas. Politically, Egypt has come to be one of the worst police states in the region. The draconian approach to quash political opposition has become an expected norm that diminishes any possibility of a peaceful democratic transition. Since the military coup, all sitting members of parliament must be selected and or approved by the security apparatus, pushing the reality of democratic process further away. Since I participated in the free and fair election until today, from 2013 until 2024, we have not seen a free and fair democratic process on all levels. On the municipal level, it is not happening. On the national level, as parliament, it is selected by the police apparatus. And on the presidential level, there is only one man running, and we call this man who is going to restore democracy. When President Morsi, the democratically elected president, was kidnapped by the military, which constituted a dark moment in the history of democracy and the history of Egypt, and I do not know how Mr. Kerry, the then Secretary of State, saw that dark moment as the military, quote-unquote, restoring democracy. It is surprising that Mr. Kerry welcomed the military democracy. On the other hand, the violent groups in the Arab and Muslim world, or the counter-violent groups in the Arab and Muslim world, are not comfortable with the democratic process, so they would welcome a counter-violence as an alternative to the European and American support of dictatorship and authoritarianism. Muslim Democrats preferred and still insist on peaceful civilian democracy that respects the will of the indigenous people and build the bridges of understanding and mutual respect and mutual interest with the rest of the world. Here is the American-supported or favored military-style democracy looks like. I will share just quickly few examples of how the situation in Egypt after the military coup that was considered by the Secretary of State at that time to be restoring democracy. Thank you. So The rule of law index, Egypt, it was in 2016 number 110 out of 142. The rule of law index in 23, Egypt is 136 out of 132. And when democracy is denied, justice disappears, and then economic development does not go forward, political freedom is not available, to the extent that the military coup leader, General Sisi, arrested all those who wanted to compete with him in free and fair election, even military generals who wanted to compete in the election. When there is no democracy, democracy for post-colonial countries is not just a luxury. It's not really a luxury at all. It is a national security issue. It is a developmental issue. It is economic prosperity, because it presents transparency, accountability, which do not exist when there is military dictatorship. Due to time constraints, I will just leave all I was going to share. I will be happy to share with you what is happening in Egypt, how many people died in prison, how many people are suffering today, how there is no freedom of expression, there is no freedom of election, and I will share with you my conclusion. Supporting democracy in the Arab world is the humane and legitimate alternative for all stakeholders. Fake military democracy has led to a failed state. It is time to promote indigenous democracy and support the will of people, regardless whether we agree with their culture or not. I conclude that if we were not silent, and by silent I mean complicit, and I mean it specifically, knowingly or unknowingly, in denying the free people of Egypt their democracy by supporting and enabling continuation of oppression, starting by the military coup and everything after, we would have been able to avoid many atrocities in the Arab world, including the Tunisian coup and the genocide in Palestine. Like I said before, it is all connected. Thank you. Free, free Palestine.